touch on today. And I know as a woman, leadership often comes to mind, right? Because many of us are in careers or we're in boardrooms, and there's not many folks that look like us, right? So it was really important for us to get as many diverse, dynamic, professional women together. And so my team and I, we sat down and we're like, who can we get to be on these panels? And it wasn't just the leadership panel, it was all of the panels that you're going to experience today. And so I was really, really excited about the leadership panel because I wanted to make sure that we crossed over industries, right? In my mind, I see a lot of educators always, or professional people in the finance industry always, but there's just so many dynamic women that are out there doing things across disciplines. And so we're really excited about your panelists that you're going to hear in the CEO of My Own Life. And we always say, you know, women, we're not only leading in the boardrooms, we're leading at home, right? We're leading in our communities. And so I really wanted you all, I don't want to read you their bios because they're each so dynamic. But if anybody here would love to read their bios, they are available on our Navigate website. So that's nvigate.gov. So please feel free to read their bios. But I just wanted to start today, and I want to start with each of you, and we'll start with JC and just go around. Just share a little bit about who you are and what you're currently doing, and share a little bit about your professional journey with us. That's good. Yeah, that's good. Just a little tease for them, yeah. Don't tell them everything. Yes. Yes. Good
morning, everyone. My name is Gravatt. I'm the Chief of Police for the North Las Vegas Police Department. I've been on the department for 21 and a half years. I currently have about 292 commissioned officers and about 150 civilians that work in my command. My journey was I'll pat, if I can get out this chair. I was in this chair just for you guys. My passion was mental and behavioral health. I got to Las Vegas in November '98, and that's what I did, and I loved. Just happened to have a neighbor, saw him every morning. Where are you going? Where are you going? He's like, I'm going to the police academy. You should give me an interest card. And it was kind of an afterthought. But here I am, 21 and a half years later, and loving serving the community and helping to build and develop everyone in my department.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay. Over to you.
Good morning. My name is Glenda Swain. I'm the Vice President of Diversity and Inclusion at Wynn Resorts, North America. So in my current role, I'm responsible for all of the diversity and inclusion strategies for all of our North American business. So not just the 2 resorts we have here in Las Vegas, but we have a resort in Boston, and we also hopefully will have a resort in Manhattan in New York. So fingers crossed on that. I'm from Michigan originally. All right, okay. Midwest girls, we're scrappy. We're very, very, so I love this topic because we're talking about navigating rooms that we're always the minority in. I started my career in the auto industry, working for 2 of the big 3 automakers and working with the UAW, the union, and it's very male dominated. So I learned from a very early age how to just stand in your truth of who you are and own the room as a woman. So I look forward to, giving you guys some insights on how you can do that in your own careers.
My name is Tina Quigley, and I have kind of similar to some of your stories, maybe started out, I was going to be a pilot. And yeah, I know, private pilot, but yeah, long deviating. So you never know what's going to happen in your life, but I think some of the advice that you guys have already shared about work ethic, about being open to opportunities, pursuing things that maybe you didn't set your heart on at first, and then also learning to stand up for yourself in a room, those are all things that I look forward to sharing with you as well. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you. So ladies, I wanted to tell you in the room, I am not going to monopolize on the questions. So start to think of things that you want to know. We are going to have an opportunity for you to ask questions from the audience. But first, ladies, we started off talking about these male-dominated fields, right? So what's the biggest challenge that you as a woman have overcome as a leader, and what lesson did you learn, or what lesson would you like to share with other women? And we can start with the chief.
I feel there's a lot of challenges. Being a female in law enforcement is a rarity. We're looking at probably about 15%, if that, on a good department. I have retired Chief Michelle Freeman up here who can, reflect on some of the things I'm going to say, but to walk into a room or to go to a They know. So just instill those values at the very beginning and never change who you are for anyone.
Thank you. We're going to go to you, Glenda.
Yeah, to piggyback on what she said, I think building trust is very, very important. For me, when I started in the auto industry, I was very green right out of graduate school. And so I was put, so my major was human resources and labor relations. So I started out as a labor relations rep. So in those jobs, especially when you're first starting in the industry, you don't get the glamorous jobs. I didn't start at headquarters. I started on second shift at an Axo plant on the east side of Detroit. and so all of the union stewards were men. And so they knew I was coming, so they heard this new girl, fresh out of college, she's green, she doesn't know anything, was coming to man second shift. What they didn't know was that my dad was a union steward for many, many years in the auto industry for one of the tier 1 suppliers. And so I grew up understanding how unions work, how you can negotiate with people, how you look towards a common goal, because you're right, everything doesn't have to be adversarial. So the union management relationship by nature is adversarial because they want something and you want something, but you have to figure out what the common ground is and say, listen, you want this, I want this, we both want this, so let's figure out how we get it done together. And so I knew that going into my job, but of course, they tested me because they wanted to see if I could hang with them. And there's a lot of, profanity and a lot of things thrown around in the union shop. And you can't let whatever the environment is, you can't let it intimidate you. Like I said before, I am from Michigan. I'm a feisty Midwest girl, so none of that threw me off at all. Actually, I welcomed it, because it's something that I grew up learning. But what the takeaway was that I was knowledgeable, so I understood the collective bargaining agreement and what we had to negotiate from a management perspective. I knew who the players were. You always got to know who the influencers are. Everybody, so just because someone has a title doesn't mean they're an influencer. And so you have to understand who the influencers are. And once you understand who the influencers are, you start working and negotiating and talking to them to get to that middle ground that we talked about. Once you do those things, it won't make it easy, it'll make it easier, and you can put yourself on a productive path to negotiation.
Awesome, I love that. So what she wanted to say was when they were cursing at her, she was cursing back.
I can give it just as well as I can take it.
Tina, we'll go to you next.
Wow. Well, so I have so much ditto to the chief and to what you've just shared about, but I'll put it in a different phrase. And I learned this from a mentor of mine, a leader, Pat Mulroy, who ran the Water Authority here and who's a badass, right, who is in a male-dominated industry. But she said something in different words. You want to build your fan club. Relationships matter. And in the end, that fan club that's got your back, that you have a rapport with, that believes in you, understands who you are, when you get targeted, when there's some negative energy towards you, that fan club will be the credibility in protecting you. And having been in government, her point to me is that you'll never think that just because on an org chart you report to a board of elected officials, who you really work for is your team, your peers, and the community. Because those boards will come and go, bosses will come and go, but that support group who knows you, trusts you, believes in you, they got your back. So I think I'm paraphrasing it just differently than what you guys have shared, but it works.
Awesome. Yes, JC?
Yeah, for those of you who have any interest in going to the financial industry, right, like I will tell you that the higher you go up, the more male-dominated it is. It is the truth. And, I have my colleagues here who are all men, and, they hear this from me all the time. But I think, how I plug along is because I'm confident in my strengths. So I tell myself every day that I'm so good. So, and so I make them believe that, because I tell myself every day, I make them believe that. I prove it by the quality of my work. And so, like Tina said, like, they're my fan club now. And so if they move to another bank, I go with them. So so I think that's it, right? Like, you have to believe in your strengths, know your strengths, be confident, but also be aware of your weaknesses if there are any, and constantly improve your skill set so that, people will know you. And it is what it is. It also helps that you get older, right? And then you get to a point where, So they're male-dominated, so what can I do? It is what it is, but then you know what you bring to the table, and you're confident in what you bring to the table.
Thank you. I love that. So affirmations is so powerful, right? Putting those sticky notes on your mirror, saying, I'm strong, I am powerful, I am smart, I am brilliant. Affirmations, I 100% believe in them. I also believe in putting out into the universe what you want to receive, right? I want to be a CEO. Say that every morning until you are a CEO, if that's your goal. And whatever your goals are, to state those goals. And so one of the things I've always told people is I surround myself by other women, right? Other women that are inspiring and empowering me to greatness. And so I wanted to ask our panelists, who is someone in your life, and it doesn't always have to be other women, right? Sometimes there's men in your life that are cheering you on way more than your sister circle, right? But who in your circle or who in your life that you admire has really pushed you to that next level, has really empowered you or inspired you? And Tina, we're going to start with you on this one.
Right, I'm going to have to go way back to when, and I think probably we all have this in our history. When you were young and first starting out, actually a lot of you are still young and just starting out. But there was somebody who believed in you, that saw something in you when you didn't even believe in yourself. So I was at the airport, I was an intern, and I thought I was just average. And I got to I'm going to start practicing JC's mantra. Like, I am really good. I wish somebody would told me that way back when I was a kid. Yeah. But the director of aviation, he believed in me, and he started giving me projects that I thought were too hard for me. But I didn't want to let him down, right? The fact that he gave me these projects. His name was Mr. Bob Broadbent, a pharmacist from Boulder City who became director of aviation. But that first person who believed in you, they have no idea what they did for you and how they projected you in your career. His belief in me made me believe in me. And so I have adopted that in my leadership and my management. When I see somebody that I think they've got, and sometimes somebody's got that work ethic and that energy and that and you just know all they just need to believe in themselves. So I try to do exactly what he did for me, for other people. And I look around the room and I see several of you that I do believe in. So I believe in you, and I like watching you grow, Liz. So. Did I answer the question?
Yeah, you did.
Okay. I'll tell you another one. It's a complete opposite. Is that I do look to as a mentor, but for different reasons. Is Steve Hill from the LVCVA. I don't ever want to work for the guy, but I do admire his. He believes in himself. I'm sure she wakes up in the morning every day and says, "You're doing good," but he is not afraid to take on some really big, ballsy projects and push them through without questioning. And I wish I want to have more of that. So.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Glenda, we'll go to you next.
Yeah, for me, I would say her name was Monica Emerson, and at the time she was the chief diversity officer for Chrysler Corporation. And once I came out of the plants and survived that, I went up to corporate and worked for her. And she was very tall and statuesque and had this beautiful gray short hair. And so she was very commanding. She had a very commanding presence. And I just kind of watched her navigate through a lot of the issues under her tenure Chrysler was acquired by Daimler-Benz in an acquisition. So I watched her navigate talking to all these men from Stuttgart, Germany, and trying to get them acclimated to how we did business in Auburn Hills. And then she would navigate through lawyers and through manufacturing. And so she always had a voice. She always had a place at the table, and she didn't abuse it. You know, she wasn't one of those people that you know how sometimes some people are at a table and they feel like they're not valuable if they're not talking all the time or have something to interject. Sometimes you don't have to interject all the time. Listen, and then when it's appropriate, interject or talk. Your thoughts will be more impactful that way versus constantly talking, because after a while, people tune you out. But I just watched her. And so I got 2 promotions under her, and then I went for this 3rd promotion for a director of employee relations. And at the time, a lot of personal stuff was going on in my life. My mom had just passed away, and I was going through a divorce. And so I applied for the job, and I knew I was going to get it because Monica and I were like this, right? And she didn't give me the job. And it devastated me at the time. So sometimes we're short-sighted. She was long-sighted. Wow. And so she was like, Glenda, I know if I give you this job, you'll stay here. You need to go, because I had gotten some offers from some other companies to come and work, and I turned them down because I was waiting on this opportunity. And she was like, I've done all I can do here. You need to go somewhere else. And that's why I didn't give you the job. And I left and went to the Coca-Cola company in Atlanta, where I got promoted, and then started a diversity consulting company, and then subsequently came to Wynn. But, you know, watershed moment, about 2 years ago, we circled back. Our paths crossed again, and I said, remember you didn't give me that job? And she said, yep, I remember, and where are you now? Wow. Where are you now? So she's someone I admired because she knew who she was. She commanded her presence in the various circles that she went in. She developed people well, including myself, even though I didn't see it that way at the time. But she saw something in me that I didn't see in myself at the time, and you need to pay attention to that. So that's who I admire.
I love that story. Okay.
My story is similar to maybe what Tina alluded to earlier. It's like it goes way back. I remember I was in high school, and I had a biology teacher, and her name's Mrs. Villa Delgado. And, you know, there was a cheering competition, and she said, okay, you will be the head cheerleader. I mean, why not, right? So, but then I'm thinking, okay, so I'm going to be the head cheerleader. Can you see how high-pitched I am? So I have to squeak through the whole thing. I have like 240 girls that I have to lead and, you know, be the head cheerleader. And then I thought to myself, okay, like each section anyway will have like their own section cheerleader. And all I needed to do, I thought, was for the section cheerleader to hear me. And so that's how I went about it. But then the whole thing about that is like she taught me that I can do things that I don't think I can. And then, of course, I learned how to delegate, so, you know, to the section cheerleaders. And then it really, like, made you grow out of your comfort zone. Like I mentioned earlier, don't wait for the experience. Just do it, figure it out. We normally do anyway. So.
That's right. That's right.
So I'm thinking in my head, who do I want to talk about? Because hopefully we all have people in our lives that are supportive and, you know, that encourage you. So I'm going to keep mine a little bit closer to home, my husband. When I got into this field, I loved it. I love supporting the community. And as I'm moving up through the ranks, it was challenge, it's hard. You know, we're testing, we're interviewing, assessment centers, and I got to be a lieutenant. I was so happy, I'm good, well, minus the fact I was on graveyard. And then they sent me to internal affairs, and I really wasn't feeling that. But this opportunity came to interview for captain. And I had a career plan. I'm supposed to retire when I'm 55, and I was gonna retire as a captain. Okay, I will be 50 in November, okay? So I'm like, I'm not gonna do that, that's not my career path. But the encouragement that was given to me by him, the support, because it wasn't that I couldn't do it, it was, that's not my path. That's not what I was supposed to do. Look, here it is, it's right here. I'm gonna get promoted to captain when I turn 52. So my last 3 years, I'm a captain. It's not that journey that I was supposed to be on. He's like, yes, it is. This is what you're meant to do. And I'm like, man, I'm gonna interview against all these other, people who have such tenure. And he's like, you know what? Be you, talk about what you know, be passionate like you are. And I'm like, did it and got promoted. I was like, whoa, that happened. Then another opportunity, it was like the assistant chief position. And I'm like, that's not for me. That's not on my career path. I'm like, I got a plan. I have to be this captain now for like 7 years, And he's like, no. And at the time, North Las Vegas appointed the very first female police chief, Pam Ojeda. And not only is she a mentor for me, but she's one of my best friends. And so with the support of my husband, my best friend who was leading the agency, this opportunity came about to be the assistant chief of police. And I did that for a little over 2 years. I love being the assistant chief because you're hands-on, you're still in there doing the work, and I'm a hands-on kind of person. And then my best friend left me last January. I talked to her this morning, and there was another opportunity. And I'm like, man, that's not on my path. So the whole point of this is it's really important because I kind of rambled a little bit. Usually I'm not like that, just I just feel so comfortable in this setting with women, I don't get this opportunity. The only time I get this opportunity is when amazing people like Tia invite me to come and talk to women, because I'm always talking to men, and I feel so comfortable, and I think that I like this girl. It's important not only to have people that you look up to that we can go back to being young and giving us the opportunities, but having a strong, close internal support system. People will tear you down, and there's nothing worse than having somebody tear you down when they're sitting right next to you, when you're waking up to them, when you're having dinner together. So it's not just that external support and people that believe in you, you have to have it close to home too. So you not only have to get rid of toxic friendships and understand who toxic leaders are, get away from the toxic people that are close to you that are telling you you can't. If it wasn't for Pam Ojeda and my husband, I would not be sitting here right now. And I sit here proud to lead the best police department in Nevada.
I want to say, first of all, don't ever apologize for being vulnerable and for sharing. When I envisioned this summit, this is what I envisioned. Women being able to share with one another and really connect with one another, right? Because I'm always so empowered or inspired by other women and their journeys. And so this is what I envision. So thank you for sharing and feeling comfortable to share that with us.
And that's the chief over here, going shit and talking about her support system.
Right.
And don't get it twisted. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri too, girl. Look, we can handle it.
Midwest.
I won't bring Jackie out, okay?
Right. But I love what you said, and there's a lesson in what she said about you had this path that you reduced it to writing, and that's what they tell us to do. Reduce it to writing so it's real, right? Because if it lives in your head, chances are you won't follow through with it. So you reduced it to writing, but you stuck to it. You couldn't. She tried to stick to it. But the lesson in that is you have to know when to pivot. You have to know when to pivot, and you may not have felt you needed to at that time, but that's why your husband and your best friend and whoever else said, no. I know this isn't your timing, but this is the time.
Yes.
And that's what you have to do.
I love that. So one of the things I want to go back to is what Tina said when she was talking about people who've inspired her. A lot of times we'll have, I want to say, bosses or managers that may not necessarily lead how we would envision a good leader to lead, but you still learn something from them, right? So I really want us to talk about leadership style. What is your leadership style currently? And has that shifted? Has that pivoted over the years? And does it change with the individuals that you're tasked to lead? Start with you, Tina.
So I think, yes, definitely it's changed over the years. So the first part of the question was, what leadership?
What's your leadership style? Yeah, your personal leadership style.
Okay, so that's tied together. So a good leader, by my definition and having learned this, and you guys all know this, right? A good leader is one that really can listen. A good leader is a listener almost before a leader, because and it's so hard to do. Active listening is so hard because you have already as they're talking, you've already formed an opinion, or you've already come into the discussion, the meeting, with an idea as to how it's supposed to go. But once you can master the active listening and truly piecing together all that you're hearing, man, not only will you be a more informed, smarter leader, but you'll be leading people who believe in what you are leading because they were a part of forming it, right? So it's this magic of releasing yourself from having to be the answer person and really listening to get the answer. So I've changed over the years? Yes. I think when you're very young, the first time you're a manager or a supervisor, you're like, I'm in charge, and it's my responsibility your responsibility is to surround yourself with people smarter than you, and then to listen and get out of their way. That's like that is leadership, in my opinion. And it's just like this antithesis. You think leadership's so hard, and that you have to be so perfect all the time, but it's just the opposite. You just have to surround yourself with the right people, and then it's just fun. But so that's my journey.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And there were lots of hard lessons along the way.
Glenda?
So my leadership style is one that gives people the latitude to do their job. I'm not a micromanager by any stretch of the imagination, and I don't like to be micromanaged. It's like just kind of set the expectations. I think as long as you manage expectations well and have some competent people around you and clearly articulate what the goal is. I mean, we can have varied ways of getting to the goal, but as long as you clearly articulate what the goal is and let people do their thing, I think that's an effective leader for me. Another thing I would also say is that people think leaders are people who necessarily have people reporting to them. You can be an individual contributor and still be a leader in whatever it is you do. So don't let people tell you, oh, you don't have any direct reports, or you don't manage people. You're not a people manager, that you can't be a leader. Whatever, area you're in, make sure that you're the expert in that area. And once people see and notice you're the expert in that area, they'll pull you into things that you wouldn't necessarily be pulled into because you're not a people manager. So don't let people tell you that a leader can be an individual contributor.
Absolutely. Thank you. JC, we'll go to you. I'm sorry, we can go to you, Chief. I need to look and see who has the microphone.
I think that what these two ladies said is super important. My personal leadership style, I believe in providing the tools that people need in order to be successful. You cannot tell someone you have to go build a car and not provide all the parts to build the car. So it's about knowing your people, knowing what they need, and then providing them the tools, whatever that may be, on-the-job training, leadership classes, whatever they need to be successful. So I believe in really knowing, active listening, knowing what the needs are, and then providing the tools, and that's what I do. Does the leadership style change? Do you have to pivot? Absolutely. That's you knowing your audience. That's you knowing the people that you are working with you and around you. And if you have individuals that really need a lot of support because they're really not understanding, you need to be that type of leader that's going to provide them those skills and the knowledge in order for them to be successful. If you go into a separate group where they have a level of expertise and you have to remove yourself, you can step back, allow them to do their job, allow them to, take some risk, okay? As long as that risk, no one gets hurt, allow them to take that risk. Allow people to fail if they need to fail in order to understand that you can't do it by yourself. And you said something so important, surround yourself with people who know. I look at what I do as a career, leading an entire agency. I don't know every single thing about narcotics. I don't know every single thing about a homicide investigation. I don't know every single thing about CSI, but I promise you, on my command staff, I have an expert that can speak to every single component of that agency, and I listen to them. I listen to them, and my role is to make sure no one gets hurt, that I'm informed, that I reach out to the people that know. So you'll never know everything. You're going to surround yourself with people who do, and you're going to allow them to be the experts in that area to inform you so you can make the best decision to get a good outcome.
Absolutely. Thank you. JC.
I think mine is just a summary of what the ladies before me have said, right? First, I want to be very clear. Clarity is important to me. What are we doing here, right? Like, everybody understand what we're doing. What are the goals, right? When that's been understood, then I want to be able to empower. I want to create an environment where everybody is empowered. Whatever your level is, whatever your role is in your team, I want each one to be empowered because for me, it's important that everybody gets to exercise some kind of discretion or judgment, right? Like, as my dad would say, he passed already, but I remember when we were young, he would always say, use your coconut, use your coconut. And so, everybody has something to offer, right? But sometimes people are so afraid to speak up because they're afraid of the consequences. As a leader, I would try my best, really, and I try my best, really, to make room for that. You have to take risks. If you don't take risks, there's nothing gained. But you have to be thoughtful, though. You cannot just go Clint Eastwood on me. So it has to be thoughtful because I'm also all about accountability. There are results to be accountable for, but there are also successes, right? And everything is shared success. And so, those are the three, I would say the words that, I try to go by, in trying to manage or, lead people. Hopefully that helped.
Yes, thank you. And so, go ahead.
Can I add something? And this is just going to be tactical. This isn't philosophical or conceptual at all, but I found a tool, and I'm not advocating for anyone in particular, but when you are a leader and you are a manager and you've got a team, and we all come to everything with biases and personality traits and idiosyncrasies and stuff, character strengths, character flaws, whatever. I have always enjoyed, I'd say for the past 20 years now, using one of those personality index tools, and there are a multitude out there, but and doing that as a team exercise. It's really awesome because now all of a sudden I understand you work through and with people. That's why I can't have you in a cubicle, all the time. And then you are an analyst, or you are a doer. So you are task-oriented. And so you're asking me questions all the time. It's driving me crazy. But as a leader, I have to understand that's because you're a doer who wants to execute. And so it's up to, but then we all understand each other, and we can even start to joke about it, Mm-hmm. Oh, there's the Energizer Bunny again, Oh, yeah. And I again, it's tactical, but it really is it just cuts through all the guessing and gets right to who we are naturally.
Absolutely.
And none of us are good or bad. We're all just crazy in our own way. But understanding each other's crazy is fun.
Absolutely. I love that you said that, Tina. I do. Let me tell you, my people are sick of the color assessment, okay? I'm like, I'm a red, and I need to know who's thinking like me on this team. And so we do the assessments all the time. It's really, I think, important for your team dynamic. I always tell them, yes, we are thinking differently, but it takes all of us to get the work done, right? We need all the colors. We can't all be reds. We can't all be blues, because you know how blues are. They care about people. We don't have time for that sometimes. Just joking. So thank you for bringing that up. Another thing that Glenda said was, we're all leaders. Everyone in this room is a leader, right? The fact that you saw this and you wanted to sign up for this and come here today, you're a leader. So you may not supervise anybody. You may supervise a 2-year-old at home, or you may supervise your husband or your partner, right? You're a leader, right? So that's why we call this the CEO of your life, because every journey in this room is different, right? And so we don't want you to get caught up necessarily in their journey, because each of them is telling us just so many dynamic things that got them to this journey. So at this time,
Only because I just saw it on Instagram or something the other day.
gonna take your
When
mic.
Dolly Parton was giving a commencement speech for a university, she said that she has to be really careful to share information, not advice, and for you guys to understand that, because if she was giving advice and you were to follow her journey, her advice would be things like, get a big wig, wear high heels, and a push-up bra. And, that's not what works for everybody. So advice versus information.
Yes, absolutely. So at this time, we are going to go to the audience, because you all have questions. This is why you're here. So let's hear them. Okay, I'm going to bring the mic to you just to make sure we can hear you.
I probably don't even need it. Hello. Woo-hoo. My name is Soraya. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I have a very targeted question, and hopefully it fits in this space. So just as a really quick background, I have had a tremendous amount of trauma throughout my life, and I have been in healthcare for 29 years. However, my passion, just like Chief, is mental health. So I became a certified life coach and help people in the mental health space. However, as a CEO of that part of my life, I endeavor to become bigger, and I want to take that journey to police. I want to take that journey to mid and large size organizations and create employee health programs surrounded around mental health and things of that nature. I understand that there's a high rate of suicides with police. I understand that there's a high rate of domestic violence with police and things like that, also in corporate spaces as well. So that is my goal. And I've worked with sororities and adoption agencies in different places like that, giving speeches and workshops and things of that nature. But as this word came up earlier, I want to pivot and I want to grow. And so what advice do you have for people in a space like me who have been doing a thing but want to grow and want to pivot but don't necessarily know how? I think I have all the answers, right? But I don't, obviously, because I'm still where I am. And so what advice could you give to someone like me? Because this could even, translate over to corporate. It doesn't have to necessarily be for an entrepreneur. But what advice could you give somebody who feels stuck and wants to pivot and do something greater?
Well, thank you for that. First of all, you're doing the right thing now. You're at this summit, and you have the opportunity to network with women from all walks of life and in all different disciplines. At varied levels in their career right here. But not knowing what you've done thus far, you mentioned you've worked with sororities and some other organizations. The best thing you can do as an entrepreneur, I was an entrepreneur as well, and you just have to you have to do research, because when you don't have a North Star, everything looks like an opportunity. And then, you're kind of pulled in different directions. So you have to figure out what's your North Star and really hone in on it, but give yourself some wiggle room to pivot if it doesn't make sense. But then also be strategic about where you put yourself, what conferences you go to, what events like this you go to. And I would list like the top 5 either industries and or companies you want to work with, and then figure out how you get there. You have, as an entrepreneur, you know this, you have to be resourceful. And you also have to be in a position to do things sometimes without monetary pay. For instance, when I first started, I left Coca-Cola and started my consulting company. One of the companies I knew I wanted to work for was Delta Airlines. I had a kind of a peripheral relationship with the person who ran diversity over there through, ironically, now that I think about it, it was through Monica Emerson, the person that I mentioned. They were on a board together. And so I called Monica and was like, hey, I want to do some work with Delta. I know you know Letty. Can you do an introductory call? And she did. They didn't have the budget for me at the time, but they had work to be done. So I said, I'll do it. I worked for them for free for 4 months. And then when she got her budget at the end of the second quarter, they put me on retainer. So just look for opportunities, leverage relationships that you have, and put yourself in strategic positions to win.
All right, any other questions? We have a mic holder now. Great, thank you, Josephine. You're welcome.
Hi, my name is Jen. I don't know if I can stand actually. I don't want to knock my chair over.
Okay.
Hi. So I recently became the director of my nonprofit. So I wanted to ask the panel, how do you, when you've just come into a role like that, how do you handle imposter syndrome? Yeah. The person who had the job before me had very big shoes, so I am working really hard to fill those shoes.
Okay, well, raise your hand if you have ever felt imposter syndrome. Get used to it. Yeah. I don't know that you ever get over this. You'll go through cycles of it. How do you get over imposter syndrome? I think to some extent that just takes some time. And maybe doing some looking in the mirror exercises like JC talked about. But I don't know that ever really truly goes away. And I don't know that maybe you ever want it to truly go away, because I think you want to, if you are humble and enough, and honest with yourself enough, you know that there's always room to grow and to get better and to learn from the people around you and watch. I'm going to go back to my thing about surrounding yourself with the right people and listening to them, and recognizing that your role is to collect all the different thoughts and then synthesize them and lead from there. I get my confidence from exactly that. I get my confidence from knowing that I've got an army, a team of people who are my advisors. It helps with feeling alone in making those decisions and leading. So, oh, that's funny.
JC wants to ask that.
I just wanted to add that this is where relationships are important, right? So you don't necessarily have just to rely on your own knowledge, but there are people outside of your organization maybe, and others that previously maybe had the same role and had the same path as you. But if you reach out to them, a lot of people are very willing to help. And so you can check in periodically and then, just tell them, hey, I want to run this by you. What do you think? What are your thoughts? And then they can even say to you, like, you know what? Why don't you talk to this person? And I can make the introduction, same experience, set up a meeting. It really helps. So always, relationships are very important. Nurture those and keep them.
Good morning, everybody. Almost good afternoon. I first and foremost want to thank you all for being here today. It's been incredibly inspiring so far, so thank you very much. My name is Gabby Turiel, and I just wanted to ask you, you had already touched on it, but for lack of better words, a moment in your career or your life that sucked, that, like you had said, you thought was completely devastating at the time, but now after time has passed, you see that it was an extremely pivotal moment in your career and your life, and was very defining and got you to this very point. So if one of the panelists wanted to share one of those moments.
Okay, so in law enforcement, the female chiefs of police, we can count them on our hands. I went to which meeting was it? Nevada Sheriffs and Chiefs meeting. And I was with Chief Ojeda at the time. I was the assistant chief. And we're in Nye County somewhere, I don't know, somewhere I've never been before. And everybody knew who Chief Ojeda was. Everybody knows Chief Ojeda. She's about this tall, short blonde. And I'm with her, and we're at this meeting. And another sheriff from another county was like, oh, well, who is this? And Chief Ojeda's like, this is my assistant chief, Jackie Gravatt. He's like, your assistant? Like, so what does she do? She's the assistant chief of police. She does the same thing I do when I'm not there. It was pivotal for me at that moment to know that we should be proud of what we're doing. Your time will come and people will know, because I'm like a low-key kind of person. I don't like being on camera, interviews, this setting, because I want to inspire, I want to encourage, but that's not me. But it was like, wow, did you really just go, oh, I guess he thought I was, I don't know, the secretary, which is fine, right? Because I love mine. But I'm like, she literally just told you, and to feel like a widget. Like I worked hard to get to where I am, and you just widgeted me. I made up a word, widgeted.
Widgeted me.
We need to stand tall. It taught me at that moment that no matter how many men are in a room, you will not address me or treat me any less than who I am.
That's right, yeah, respect.
I am the assistant at the time, the assistant chief.
Okay.
Do not, I will never let somebody, I'm never gonna go, oh, look at me, here I am, because that's not me. You guys will always see my command staff doing interviews or whatever, but I'm like, you will never minimize who I am after all the work that I put in to get to where I am.
Them. I'll just ignore you if I don't want to stop. But I saw you. I did see you. But really quick, before we start we're going to take one final question. Yours is going to be our last. But I do want to remind you of a few things. We'll give two more. We'll do two. I didn't see you. We'll do two. So, few things. Remember that this topic of today was the CEO of your life, because you will have an evaluation later today, and we really want your feedback, right? So the treasurer was saying this is our first time doing this since 2012, right? We want to do this more often. This is a space we want to be in more often, and so your feedback is invaluable. So please share. I see many of you jotting down notes. Please share your notes with us. You can email them to me personally. You can send them put them on your evaluation, because we want this event to grow and become bigger and better year after year, right? So please share. Also, don't forget that we are encouraging you to post on social media. Hashtag this particular workshop is the CEO of your own life. And if you have any questions that are individual, the ladies will be around after the panel. So don't feel like we don't get to you, they're going to stay around. So we are going to take you and then you, or you because you have the mic, and then you.
Okay, thank you so much for including my question.
Yes.
My name is Sharita Childress. I am a mental health therapist here in Nevada. I've been a therapist for about 10 years, and I've been a social worker for about 17 years. But my question is, I'm a huge advocate of mental health awareness and self-care. So my question for anyone on the panel is, how do you implement self-care, and would you please share it with us, why it's important for you as you balance, being the CEO of your life with everything you have to do?
That is a great question, right? Balance. Who has found balance? Raise your hand if you have found balance. Not many of us, right?
Yeah, self-care. So what I do, and don't tell anybody at Wynn that I do this.
This is between y'all.
This is between us. This is the safe sister circle space. I block every Friday on my calendar. I don't, because people can see into my calendar, so I'm not very descriptive, but I will block my entire calendar on Friday, and it may say community meetings. Okay, you don't know what that is. You don't need to know what that is. Just know I'm not going to be on property that day. And during that time, I respond to emails that I can't get to a portion of the day. But just working from home and being in my space and being able to work in my pajamas and fix my lunch, that is a great escape from the lunacy that is gaming on the strip. And so and sometimes that's all I need. And sometimes once I get that, you know how you need something and then once you get it, you don't need it anymore? Yeah. Once I get that, even sometimes during the day, I'm like, okay, I'm recharged. Mm-hmm. Then I'll get back in and do some more work, even on that Friday. But it's the fact that I need that, and I do at every chance I get, I block that. And people respect that. You can, I won't say train, you can teach people how to respond to you with requests. If you're known as the yes girl, you're gonna always be the yes girl. If you're known as the, let me get back to you on that girl, people will respect that. The running joke is not, Glenda, are you on property today? Oh no, it's Friday, she ain't here. And people will adjust. The world won't stop on its axis and people will keep living if you don't answer an email on a Friday at 4 o'clock.
And I really like what she was saying about, self-care. But one of the things is this conference is called Invest in Yourself, right? And it's not just financially investing in yourself or making savvy financial decisions. It's also investing in you. And that can mean finding a balance. That can mean self-care. Last week I went on vacation and the first morning I missed breakfast. I didn't get up till like 11 and they were like, oh my God, are you okay? I'm like, the fact that I was able to sleep in without an alarm clock, that was the highlight of my vacation. Nobody woke me up with an alarm. Nobody was touching me, mommy. No, that to me was vacation, and that's part of investing in yourself. I always tell women, you are no good for anyone else when your cup isn't full, right? So we have to do a better job of making sure that we're okay, so that we can be okay for our families, our friends, and our job, right? And so we're going to take one last question. It was somewhere over here. And then I have already gotten the red card. I saw you.
Oh, I'm on red card. Great. This is part B to the question that was just posed. My name's Diane Farron, and I was hoping to get some strategies around work-life balance and when you give your all plus to your professional career and then want to be able to give your all plus to family, to friends, as well as the self-care. What are some strategies that you all have determined over time are very effective for you?
Well, I'm going to answer by not really answering, and that is there's just no such thing, right? You will never, ever, as long as, and maybe once we're all retired, it comes, but when you've got those dual demanding roles, there will never, I don't think, very rarely will there be times when you're at work and you're like, not thinking about things you should be doing at home, or working at home and thinking that I should be more here present at home, or 100% in with the family at the kids' soccer game or the graduation, and not thinking for a minute, oh man, I missed that one meeting, I should be checking my emails. I can't do it. So I don't know that it can be done other than just coaching yourself through self-acceptance and saying, nope, check, I am doing the right thing, check, let it go for now. I think it's just it's a circle that's going, but that's me.
Thank you. So ladies, help me give all of our panelists our thanks today. And I would just like to, on behalf of our treasurer and our entire team, I just wanted to
add one more thing too. So I don't know how many of you guys know Zach Conine,
yes,
but I don't care what political party you are in. It does not matter. This guy is seriously the best treasurer.
He is.
And if you ever get a chance to meet him, he is inspiring and witty. And I'm so happy to have him in leadership.
Awesome.
So, much
Yes,
like you,
yes,
Tia.
yes,
So thank you.
So we just wanted to take this opportunity to personally thank each of them. These are very busy women, but they thought enough of us and enough of you to be here with us today. And so on behalf of our office, thank you so much. We have a small token. We could never pay you for being here, but a small token to say thank you. So thank you very much. This one and this one. See if that has your name on it. I don't think it does. That's okay. Okay. I'm like, that's okay. Thank you. So nice. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to give it like 1 more minute and then we're going to get started. So if you could find your seats quickly, please. Hi, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for your patience. I know we got back from the lunch a little bit late, but wasn't it dynamic? Right? Don't you feel 10 feet tall when you meet someone like Sandra Douglas Morgan, who is just making it happen, showing us what is possible, right? That's what this is all about, empowering each other. So I want to welcome you to this next session, and this is really important for a lot of reasons. You'll learn from this esteemed panel that we have up here for you. You're going to walk away with some nuggets. I like to think of it as that Sandra kind of gave us an overall blueprint. These women are going to help you kind of hone in on exactly what you should be doing and at what stage. So before we get started, I'm going to go ahead and introduce myself. I am Latoya Silman, and I am an anchor at Channel 3, so thank you. Oh, we got some viewers in the house. All right, I love that. Keep me employed, keep watching. In fact, you can watch me at 12, 3, and 6 p.m. every single night, Monday through Friday. And in my own personal life, as Lindsay knows, one of the esteemed panelists here, I'm also very, very passionate about financial health. I was one of those people who got into the television business, and for those who don't know, when you first break in, you are making like no money. I love to say that I was robbing Peter to pay Paul every single month, and I got myself in a world of debt. I don't mind saying this because I've written about it and talked about it openly, but at one point, I had 13 credit cards, 13 maxed credit cards. And so I was able, through Dave Ramsey and lots of reading, I was able to finally educate myself and break some cycles and maybe not shop so hard, even though people tell me that I wear new clothes all the time, but I'm telling you, it's in my budget. It's in my budget now. It's in my budget. But I was able to not only get rid of all of my credit card debt, get rid of my student loan debt that I literally thought, because some of my family members told me, oh, you'll have that for the rest of your life. Don't even count that. Not true. Not true. You do not have to have it for the rest of your life. Paid off my car. I bought a house. I did all these things that I thought was just out of my reach only because I just did not know. And so when you know better, you do better, right? And so that's, right? That is what this is about. So we're investing in ourselves today. We're learning about investment, which I know that can be really scary, because it's one thing to say, oh, get a budget, and a budget is not a bad thing. A budget is not a cuss word. A budget is just basically a plan for where you put your money. And I learned that the hard way, and I'm so glad that I was able to learn that and teach it to other people. Eventually became a financial coach, and I talk about this and have a blog and did all that stuff in my own time. because that's how much I believe in this. I mean, you can rock the clothes, you can have a cool job, but if you're broke, that's no bueno. So we want you to be able to have a future beyond just looking good and looking like you have $1. We want you to actually have something in your pocket. Because I looked like I had some money, and I did not have any. So, I mean, it's just true. It's just the way it was. I owed everybody and then some. My paychecks were not my own, but thankfully they are mine finally again. All right, so one of the things that people may think too is like, when I invest, how should I invest? Well, you should have probably started the sooner the better, as we heard Sandra talking about. So our crew is going to tell us about that. I'm so proud of the women that we have in front of us, including the first one, who is Lindsay Freeman. What we're going to do is have each one of them tell you a little bit, just like a quick little 30 seconds to 45 seconds of who you are, how amazing you are. But we'll start with Lindsay. She is a managing director for Westpac Wealth Partners, and she's a bevy of knowledge on financial planning and what you can do with your life, and she's going to tell us a little bit about her. And then we have Jessie Merritt. She is the Senior VP for the Bank of Nevada for their community development. We also have Anna Salazar, right there toward the end there. She is a VP of Alliance Leadership, and she also works for U.S. Bank and their Goals Coach Manager. She's going to have some really good questions for you, just so you know. And then we have Dr. Kim Nels at the very end. She is from Lee Biz School. She also is a lecturer at UNLV. She has a bevy of information as well. So ladies, really quickly before we get to the tough questions, and you all will also be able to ask questions toward the end, so I'm going to be watching our time because I want to make sure that we're meeting your needs today. We're going to start with Lindsay.
All right, thank you so much. LaToya and I have had a chance to do some financial coaching together, and I was just telling her what a treat it is to have you as our moderator. So thank you all for being here. Like LaToya said, my name is Lindsay Freeman. I'm a wealth management advisor at Westpac Wealth Partners. I have been in the advising space for about 10, going on 11 years now. So it's all I've ever really done career-wise. I was born and raised in Vegas. Do we have any other natives in here? Woo! That is so funny, because if I asked that question to a room of like this like 5 years ago, it'd be crickets. So like everyone's staying in Vegas now, which I love. Vegas is such a cool place to be. So born and raised in Vegas. I graduated from Bishop Gorman High School. Yay! Go Gales! Yay! Awesome. And I have a finance degree from UNLV. UNLV! Go Rebels! So I'm particularly really passionate about working with women, and the reason for that is I wholeheartedly believe that we as women are oftentimes missed when it comes to this conversation about money. And I think it's been a generational issue for a very long time. We're very familiar with the pay gap between men and women, but there's also this topic about the gender wealth gap that's going on. And really what that comes down to is we as women are investing less than men. And the statistic shows we're good savers. We're tucking money away. We're just not investing it. We're not putting our hard-earned savings dollars to work inside of the form of investment. So I think, like LaToya said, the more we know, the better. And I think even for me, more education leads to more confidence. And I think just we as women, and even just making the commitment to spend your entire day with us today, is a really good first step in getting that education and getting that confidence. So thank you for being here.
All right, Ms. Jerry.
I'm Jerry Merritt. I'm Senior Vice President with Bank of Nevada. As a matter of fact, I've been in banking for over 45 years this year. I am very excited to be here today as a speaker, but I am more excited to see all of you in the room. There may be many of you in the room that might remember, it seemed like a long time ago, but almost 11 years ago when Kate Marshall was our treasurer of the state, yes, and there was a women's money conference. And there was a conference very similar to this one that was actually put on for a full day to actually teach women about money. And of course, 11 years have gone by and many things have changed, but some of the issues that we have around money as women still exist. So I am excited that you all are here today, investing in yourself and actually learning, and hopefully will walk away today with little nuggets that you'll be able to take home and invest in your family also.
Anna?
My name is Anna Salazar. I work for U.S. Bank, And U.S. Bank has started about 4.5 years ago a program called Goals Coaching. So since its inception, I've been working as a manager for the program. I've been in the financial industry for about 31 years, and the last 15 with U.S. Bank. And I love the fact that banks are finally understanding how important it is to not just provide the financial education and the coaching, but to also make the services free and available to everyone. Because we know that sometimes if you're up there, you can have people advise you, but for everybody else who's working their way up there, it's very hard to find people that will give you the right advice and that can be there with you. I'm also an ICF accredited coach in financial wellness and positive psychology, and I'm also a certified coach for leadership and life. So super excited to be here today and to have this opportunity. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kim Nels. I'm so excited to be here as well. And I have the great pleasure of serving as an Assistant Dean of External Relations for the Lee Business School at UNLV. Go Fight Win! I also get to teach classes in international business for the business school. I have students in this very room right now, and I love you all. I'm so excited to be here. Former students as well. Hi, Liz and others. I am just so excited every day to pour into the next generation, men, women, all students, that we can build a great Las Vegas economy, because we need a great university, a great education to have a great city. And that's what I love to do every single day. One of the things and one of the initiatives I really want to give a shout out to that we're doing right now is we just created 2 new finance classes at UNLV, Fin 111 and 112, that are all about financial literacy. These are options for students not just in the business school, but across campus. They can take it to meet one of their gen ed requirements. So you know how you have to take all your core curriculum? You now can take those core classes in financial literacy. So we are truly trying to make a difference every day, not just in the business school, but across campus and in the community. Thanks, and go Rebels!
Lots and lots of Rebel fans in here, and I love what you said about the fact that you guys are teaching financial literacy, because it's one thing to know how to, well, not balance a checkbook anymore, I'm telling my age, but how to balance your account. But it's another thing about, okay, what should I be doing with my money? And I'm going to go a little bit off book because I was going to start with Lindsay, but I want to talk to you, Dr. Nels, really quickly. Why do you think it's so important for kids to walk out of school with that type of knowledge, not just the stuff that's going to help them get a degree and go on and have a job in their field, but to actually know how to manage their money?
Right, and I would say, so I have 3 teenagers, so I'm the least cool person on the planet, and I'm reminded of that every single day and called a boomer. But they don't learn that type of street smarts in their classes every day at CCSD or wherever they happen to be, and I feel like it is essential for our students to come out with the knowledge and understanding of how to better themselves, how to make sure that they are investing in their own futures, so that they know that they need to pay themselves first, pay down their debts, take care of their own business, then give to others, make sure that they are doing the things every day to not only build themselves, but build their generational wealth for the future. And so I think it's essential that we teach these skills. And it could be balancing a checkbook, but it could also be creating a household budget. It could be creating a plan for, I want to go on vacation. How do I make that happen to make sure that I have the spending money to do that? Or I want to buy a TV, or I want to invest in a mortgage or a car. And what does that mean? Even student loans are really essential when students are taking on so much debt to go to school these days. We do have the lowest tuition in the country, but I digress. That you can, know how to make sure that you're making wise investments in yourself for the future and your own well-being.
Yeah, and I love that you said that. But even when you do sometimes know the what, you may not know the how. And so that is when you might turn to someone like Lindsay and say, okay, how can I map out my financial future? And one of the things that I think Dr. Nels just said is that a lot of times we know, okay, I should save my money, but we're not necessarily investing our money. So when should we come to someone like you, Lindsay, and say, okay, I need to invest? Number one, why is it important? And how should we go about it?
Yeah, absolutely. And before I dive into that, just to touch on your point too, I think that's really awesome. As I mentioned, I have a finance degree from UNLV, and I tell people all the time, like, and I kind of grew up around this stuff. My dad was a CPA, and I tell people I didn't come out of college knowing how to invest money or save for retirement or pay my taxes or open up a business. So we all kind of get out into the real world, and we've got to figure all this stuff out on our own. So it's important that we get some education along the way. So I think that's really awesome that UNLV is doing that. I think it's really foundational budgeting and things like that are so necessary. So yeah, back to your question. So we have saving and we have investing, and I think that there are some boxes that we absolutely need to check before we have a permission slip to put our money in investment vehicles. So if we've kind of unpack that, what is saving and what is investing? So saving, obviously putting cash in a savings account. This is typically for the short term, so it's what I would call an emergency fund. So we're putting ourselves in a place where we can kind of self-insure life events that come up. So the transmission on the car breaks, we've got to buy a new washer dryer, something health-wise happens or job-wise happens. We've got at least 6 months worth of reserves in our emergency fund, and that is sitting in cash. Hopefully it's not under a mattress, hopefully it's in some sort of savings account. So it's short term, it's safe, there are very little risk, if any. But the downside on it is it's not growing, right? So, and obviously we're in an out of control inflation environment right now. I think we can all like feel that at the grocery store. So if we have money sitting there getting like 0.001% rate of return over a very long period of time, we're not even keeping up with the purchasing power of the dollar. So that's the downside on savings. And that's why I say have 6 months worth of reserves in a savings account. Anything above and beyond that could potentially be missed opportunity because we can't necessarily save our way to wealth. We have to invest. It's investing money that gives us a lot of power and a lot of control along the way. So if we unpack what is investing, putting money in places where your hard-earned dollars are going to grow. Now, there are two really important kind of topics when it comes to investing and things to understand, and one is it's risky. There is risk involved in investing, right? And when we're thinking the stock market, risk and return go together. So the riskier we are, the higher rates of return. But if we're in a market or an economic climate like we are in now or we're in last year, there's also downside risk. So we absolutely have to understand risk tolerance when it comes to investing. What is our objective behind investing? Do we have a lot of time on our side? Is it for retirement? Are we putting money away to buy a home in 3 to 5 years? Obviously, what we invest in is going to be very important based on what the objective is. So our goal with investing is we want to keep a long-term outlook, but we're getting growth on our money. So at least we can outpace inflation. So again, both are necessary, saving and investing. Obviously, the short-term savings, we've got to protect ourselves from emergencies, but investing is the way we increase our net worth and eventually reach our wealth goals along the way.
Yeah, so you're making sure you stay away from those credit cards. That will ultimately do you in. That's why you want that emergency service. Because guess what? Emergencies will happen, right? And just so you know, Christmas is not one of them. I tell people all the time, you knew Christmas was coming. That is not an emergency. So you need to plan separately for that. Jerry, let's go ahead and talk about some of the common types of investments that people could potentially look into.
So as I was just listening to her presentation just now, she started off by saying savings is not investing. And I totally agree. But for many of us, the way to start to investing is by savings. So I would say the most common way to start investing your money is by actually having a savings account. There are many of us today that have a checking account because that's operational, that is where we put our money, but we do not save. So a regular savings account, whereas in last year did not have a great interest rate, have a better interest rate this year. So also, once you save some money in that account, you may want to then move on to a money market account, because a money market account gives you just a little bit more interest, but it is still safe within a financial institution. And let me say this, as long as it's $250,000, you're insured. And I know we're going through a lot of trauma, right now as far as banks are concerned. But your savings account, your money market account, and then also there is your certificate of deposit. The interest rate on certificates of deposits also have increased this year because of what's actually going on in our economy. So if you're actually wanting to invest within your financial institution, start with your savings account, then to your money market, and then to your certificate of deposit. And of course, the other most common investments are your stocks and bonds, but I'm going to leave that up to ladies that understand it well.
Yeah, and we have some questions about that too for Lindsay. Anna, I see you want to jump in, and I do have another question to follow up once you finish saying what you wanted to say. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Anna was chomping at the bit.
Wait a minute. So what I was thinking about is, where do we start though, right? We got to start by building our habits. So part of budgeting, part of savings, and even investing is about making sure that we have the correct habits in place. And a lot of us need help establishing those habits or breaking bad habits of maybe spending or using all the money that's in our checking account, right? So part of what Kim had said earlier was pay yourself first. That's one of the earliest habits that we can begin building by putting money aside. Another thing that we need to look at a lot too is when we have a lot of decisions and a lot of options, we become paralyzed, right? So we get decision paralysis. What am I gonna do? What am I gonna pick? What's the best way to go? Break it down into little steps. So set a goal. Start with that goal, whether it's a savings or whether it's putting $1,000 in an investment account. Whatever your goal is, break it down into little pieces and work every day towards making those happen, towards building those habits, because those are the habits that are gonna help you when that investment is set up for you not to wanna go touch it and then pay penalties. That's what's gonna help you later on be able to continue to grow your financial wellness in a very sound way.
And Anna, when you're doing that, helping people realize that they have to have the goals and the plan in place, how important is mindset before you even start to work that goal?
It's huge. We know as females, we know as minorities, we know just from different cultural backgrounds, we carry all these biases with us, right? And it's hard. So you gotta break through those biases. You gotta make sure that your mindset is a mindset of I can, and I am gonna get there. It may take me a little bit longer. I may have to make sure that every step that I take is a solid step that's gonna get me there. But you gotta know that you can do this, and you will, because then you'll find a way. You'll aid yourself with people that are positive, people that can help you, that can give you advice. You will be able to seek out companies, people that will be able to be there next to you. And a lot of times part of coaching, what we do is just being that accountability partner. Hey, did you really do what you say you were gonna do? Did you set that money aside? Not this week? All right, let's work on it next week. What can we change? What happened last week that we can change this week to help you get there? So you gotta really make sure that you're paying attention, that you're intentional with what you're doing every day.
And also that mindset is very individual. Many of you may remember that I quite often teach a class on emotional spending. So when it actually comes to money, in order for you to be able to save it or invest it, you have to remember not to spend it. So spending is that mindset of, let me stop spending it here or spending it there so that I will be able to save it or invest it. For many of us as women, emotions run very strong. Whether we have money or not, we have a tendency to try to cure our emotional feelings with spending. And as I heard you say a few minutes ago, 13 credit cards.
Back in the day.
Yeah, I'm willing to bet if you look back and think about it, the reasons why you had them and what you purchased was around the mindset or around the emotional part of what was going on with you at that time. So I totally agree when it comes to our finances, you have to have the right mindset to get started.
Yeah, Lindsay, what did you want to add?
I totally agree. I think mindset is everything, and really what that comes down to is your individual relationship with money. And just to add to that, I think the advice that comes from the financial media is very different for women than it is for men. So the advice that's geared towards men is more of the real and the fun stuff, like make your money grow, invest, buy real estate, purchase properties, build wealth. And then the advice that's geared towards women, unfortunately, is things like stop spending money and don't get that latte on the way to work and you need to budget. And so I think we're conditioned to kind of have this negative connotation around money, right? So I just think we need to figure out what our relationship is with money and move that in the positive direction. I think that's absolutely mindset.
And I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because that was going to go right into my next question to you, because I think a lot of times we do think, and I thought this too, like I have to, y'all, at one point I was literally eating off of $50 a week. I don't know how I did it, but I was doing a lot of crock pot meals. But then I had to switch my mindset, because it's not so much about what I'm not supposed to be doing, but what can I be doing to grow my money. And one of the ways that you can do that is by having multiple sources of income that, like you said, a lot of women don't realize you can grow your money. I mean, in some cases, you're just not making enough money. I can attest to you, when I was a reporter in Waco, I was not making enough money. So sometimes it could just be a case that you just don't have enough. So how do you get enough? How do you go and make more? So let's talk about that. And investments, that is another source of income.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah, so to dive into investment in types, just kind of pick up where Jerry left off: stocks, bonds, mutual funds, index funds, real estate, commodities, currencies. Is anyone pretty savvy with investments that could tell me like the difference between a stock and a bond? Anyone want to take a shot at it?
A bond is a safe investment because there's not a lot of flex.
Yep.
The other can be risky.
Yep, you're exactly right. So when you think stock, think ownership. So when you buy a stock, you actually own a little tiny piece of that company. So you know if that company performs well, you're going to make money. But if that company performs poorly, you can lose money. So you're exactly right. There's more volatility, more risk when it comes to stocks, but higher rates of return. And then bonds is kind of the opposite. So when I say bond, I want you to actually think of debt. So when we buy a bond, what we're actually doing is we're loaning a company money. And what that company does in return is gives us back what's called a promissory note. And that note says, in X amount of years, we're going to return your money back to you and give you a little bit of interest on top of that. So when we buy a bond, we're kind of like acting like the bank in that scenario by loaning money out and collecting interest on it later. So because of that promissory note, bonds tend to be a heck of a lot safer. So whenever I see someone with a lot of bond exposure in their portfolio, it usually means we're getting really close to retirement, or we're in retirement. We're in a phase of life where we have to preserve wealth. And then in addition to that, I think the most efficient way to invest is by diversifying in index funds and mutual funds. Those are basically just huge baskets of different stocks and bonds, and they're weighted differently based on how conservative or how aggressive you as the investor can stand to be.
And while you still have the mic, what else would you say to folks about trying to just get started, or to even get, I guess, a progress report? I mean, what should they do? Are there any low-cost options for them, consultations that they should take advantage of, that sort of thing?
Yeah. So I'll plug Lisa Chastain. I don't know if anyone's had a chance to hear her yet. I love her. She has a great money coaching course, a couple of them. So if you're just starting out or you feel really well versed in your financial plan, like, she has education for you. So I would vouch for that. And then, this is going to sound biased, but I think everyone should have a financial advisor. And I don't think everyone thinks they can have one, but you can. And the reason I say that, and I think in economic climates like we are in now, makes it even more important to have someone in your corner that has a handle on your financial plan, can make adjustments to your plan based on life changes. And I think there are a lot of boxes we need to check again before we start investing, like having a savings account, paying down debt. So having someone in your corner, and it's not expensive necessarily to have a financial advisor. I know we're paid differently based on what we do, but there are commission-based advisors, fee-based advisors. So do your research, get out there, interview advisors, find one that fits your personality, and it's literally someone that you want to have a relationship with not only the rest of your career, but the rest of your life as you move into your retirement. So absolutely, financial advisors, and I think having that one-on-one coaching, someone in your corner, is really important.
Okay, anyone else want to add to that?
Yeah, I would say if you are scared, which most women are much more conservative investors than men, it's just known widely that women are more conservative investors. If you're scared, or if you just don't know where to start, you can take out a very small CD, certificate of deposit, and it is a guaranteed rate of return. You can look online. You don't have to even talk to anybody and say, hey, I have $100 or $1,000 or whatever small amount you want to start with. And some of the rates right now are 5%, 4.5% rate of return on a CD. These are some of the highest rates that we've seen, and we're hearing that interest rates may go up again this week. So when we hear interest rates go up, a lot of times it's talked about in scary terms, like that means our mortgage rates will go up, or if we get a lease on a car, that rate might go up. But it also can help us too, and it can help us in the sense of savings. So if you want to just start simple, really simple, you can do this online. You can go to I don't want to put a plug in for any specific banks, but like a Synchrony account or an Ally Bank or one that doesn't even have a in-person store. You don't have to meet with anybody. Just get that CD. It can be for 12 months, and you will be excited to see that rate of return with the 5% come back in a year from now.
Okay, Jerry?
Yes, the Fed did raise the interest rate today.
Oh, today?
Okay. About an hour ago. And yes, that would mean different things to us as far as our mortgages and our cars. But back to the conversation that we're a quarter, yes. So, but back to the conversation that we're having today, it can actually be positive because now the interest rate that you're getting on your savings will go up. And that CD that she was talking about just a few minutes ago, you can walk into your local bank where you actually have your checking account and now open up a CD where you can get a halfway decent rate on it. So sometimes we see interest rate being raised as negative, but when it actually comes to investing or savings, we are at a point now where it can be an opportunity.
Okay, while you have the mic, you've been in the business, you said 45 years. What have you noticed? How was the business maybe, 5, 10 years ago when it came to investment versus what you're seeing now in this current climate, especially since people tend to be more fear-based because they're worried about a possible recession. They're hearing, unfortunately, we're talking about those things because we got to keep you guys informed in the news. Yeah. But what are you seeing differently as far as the climate of how investors are feeling or how people are feeling about their money and where they should put it versus just 5, 10 years ago?
Well, I'd say in the financial service industry, it has always been a roller coaster regardless of what age we're in. Many of you in the room will remember 2008. And you might be having the feeling of 2008 right now, but I am here to tell you that it may feel like 2008, but it is definitely different. So the financial service industry, investing money in general, is kind of a roller coaster. So you got to know when to hold them and you got to know when to fold them, actually, when it comes, to money in general. And what I mean by that is you need to stay informed because our financial service industry is always changing. What we do in our investing is always changing. And like she said just a few minutes ago, investing in stocks could be risky. I have made some money with stocks when they're up, but we can't predict what our economy is going to do or what the industry may be doing at that time. So I would say the change in the industry is something that you individually should always stay informed about because over the last 5 to 10 years, we've actually been on a roller coaster. We may be up for 2 to 3 years, but when you wake up on a Friday afternoon or Friday morning and find out that a bank has failed, it feels different.
Yeah, and one thing that's important too for folks to realize is that, compound interest is a real thing. It's a beautiful thing, and so you want to start the sooner the better. And so I want to ask you, Anna, before we talk to the other panelists about how do you convey that to folks when we talk about goals? Because a lot of times people think, oh, I have to wait until this, or I'm going to give me 6 more months, give me another year, and before you know it, time has flown by. And you've lost the beauty of compound interest in your 20s or your 30s, and now maybe you're in your latter 30s or 40s or maybe even 50s, and you're like, okay, I got to get started. What do you tell them about, hey, let's do this now as opposed to putting it off for any other day?
I think being prepared is very important. We've been talking about it. Preparing for retirement in particular is very important. And the best way to do it is through having your investments and starting now. A little bit, a lot, it doesn't matter. It starts building those habits. It starts building up the money. Now, there's different investment strategies, whether you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, even 50s. And the experts can talk about that. But you need to put yourself first, and the time is now. So when we talk about goals, everybody's heard about SMART goals, right? And the T is time-bound. Any goal that you're serious about reaching, it's got to have some sort of timeline for you. And this is no different. And you start now.
Okay, Lindsay, I think I can feel you want to say something. Okay, she's like, no, I'm good. Okay, what about you, Dr. Nels, when you're talking to these students, any red flags that you tell them they should look out for, anything? Because it's one thing to say, okay, get out there and go. But there are some shysters out there that might try to get your hard-earned dollar.
Sure. So I think that's why it's so important to do your homework, whether it's talking to a financial advisor, doing your own homework on the internet, taking classes. You can, of course, take them through UNLV, but you can also take them through, just taking courses online through Coursera or EDX or other great resources. I mean, there is no shortage of opportunity today with YouTube and all the great free learning opportunities that are out there. Definitely tap into your library. Can't say enough great things about our library district here in town. I just feel like there are books and materials available. You have to educate yourself. Take it upon yourself to, whether it's watch a YouTube video that's not cat related once a day, that's something to do with finances. It will make you a smarter investor. So I think red flag is just take it upon yourself to learn and take those classes, do what you need to do to just get to know how to better own your money. Make it work for you rather than the other way around. You can work to earn, you can work to learn. And I think it's important to do both.
Okay, Lindsay, has some, oh, go ahead, Jerry, sorry.
As you speak about UNLV and being able to get the information in the library and actually online, I think one of the other things that we need to think about is we have children, most of us as women. And financial literacy should start very early. As a banker, we spend quite a bit of our time actually going into the schools, whether it's through Junior Achievement or some of the other organizations, teaching financial literacy to second and third graders. And at first it was like, what do they know about money? But if you start teaching them at a very early age, then they will actually know how to manage their money by the time they get to be a teenager, by the time they get to be in college. And someday when they're in a room like this, they will be very aware of what money is, how to use it, how to save it, and invest it. So sometimes as parents, we don't spend quite enough time with financial literacy and our young people. But we can actually help the generation coming up behind us by teaching them up front so they can learn quickly.
So switching gears back to your point about shysters, I think that's a really important thing to address. I think that's a major area where the finance industry fails people like yourselves is, unfortunately, there are bad financial advisors out there and bad financial companies. We hear these things in the media, the Bernie Madoff scandal, Ponzi schemes that are going on. What went on last year with FTX, it was like a huge cryptocurrency Ponzi scheme with ultra high net worth people that we think are really smart and like, how did this happen to them? So it's out there, and I think it's really important to address. And I wholeheartedly think that really the number one reason you should work with a financial advisor is because you can trust that person. You may not understand every intricacy of asset allocation inside of your portfolio, but if you can trust that person, at least you're starting off on the right foot. So again, you can look up financial advisors. Like you can Google me and find out my licenses. You could find out if a financial advisor's ever been sued or had disclosures or been in any trouble. So do your research, make sure you're working with the right person.
Okay. Anything, Lindsay, before we open it up to questions, just like really quickly, if you're like, okay, I'm ready to invest, or I don't know if I've invested enough, what's the first thing you should do when you leave today?
So I have 5 steps that I want, like boxes that you should check before we're thinking to take that step to investing. So that first one is organization. So making sure we have a handle on the budget. So budgeting, where's money going, how much is coming in versus what's going out. The second thing is protection. Do we have proper insurances? Are we going to have a life event come in that wipes out all of this money that we're trying to build? So protection, insurances, legal documents like estate planning. The next one is having your emergency fund, so saving, making sure we're capturing enough of your income, and we do have an emergency fund. The next thing is obviously paying down debt, getting bad debt off your balance sheet. And then that fifth thing, that last thing we reach is investing. So all of those things, those boxes are our permission slips to start investing. So if you have those boxes checked, the best next step is to probably work with an advisor. I think there's a ton of blanketed financial advice out there that you can find, like invest in an index fund in the S&P 500, and that may work, but it may not align with your individual goals. So I think if you've checked all those boxes and you're ready to take that next step, then a financial advisor is a great natural next step.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions? We'll open it up really quickly. Okay. I'll go over there. I'll take that mic, Lindsay. Thank you. Okay. Hi, Keisha.
So this question is for, your name is Lindsay, right? So it may sound ignorant, the question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So off of your 5 checklist things that you should have before investing, you were saying like credit card, the debts and all that be down. Why does that matter if you're trying to make money? Why does it matter how much debt you have on a credit card if you're able to make your minimum payment? You know, you're not, even though you frown upon it, take you forever to pay it off. But if you're able to still make your minimum payment, why should that hinder you from investing to make more money than you can take that money to maybe pay it off completely?
Yeah. Really good question, and it's because bad debt, high interest debt like credit cards are typically in the 20s, probably was your experience. So that's costing you more money than you are potentially making in the stock market. So there's like a negative opportunity cost that's happening there. So if we invest our money in the market and we get a 10% rate of return, but we've got a balance sitting on a credit card that we're being charged 20% on, then we're actually losing money, even though our investments are doing well. So priority-wise, let's get bad debt off and stop that kind of erosion of money before we're starting to put money at risk. That makes sense?
Not really.
She's basically saying you don't want bad money after good.
I mean, but
yeah.
I'm still going to have that debt whether I invest or not, right?
Well, no, you don't have to have debt. That's what she's saying. You put your money into something that's going to grow your money instead of taking your money, especially when it's like, what, 27%, some of these credit cards? 29.99. Oh, Lord. All right. That's expensive money. All righty.
My question is for Ms. Jerry. One of the statements you made was very prominent. It said, stay informed. And what you did earlier was very impressive. You were talking about the rates that had just went up, and you were like right on it. You were like, yeah, it went up a quarter. And I was just like, where do we go to find knowledge, and how would you suggest we stay informed? What avenues do we take? Do we follow the stock market? Do we go to certain websites? Like, what areas will we do to stay informed or look for?
Well, with everything going on in the financial service industry right now, it's not hard to stay informed, so just pay attention to as many financial articles as you can actually find. You can actually go on the internet and just Google the question you may have, so staying informed not only mean reading, consulting your financial planners, or just getting information in general. Say today with the interest rate actually going up, that's actually in the media. Pay more attention. When you hear the word finance or you hear the word banking, in general, pay attention, because sometimes we just have a tendency to think that's happening to them, but not anymore. What's happening in our financial industry today affects all of us, whether it be from your saving to your mortgage to whether you're buying a car or whatever you're doing with money. We're affected by it.
Watch News 3. I bet you we have that story on today, and we have a financial story pretty much every day. And then also, to that point, when you're Googling, make sure that you're watching and listening to credible sources. There are so many people that are on the internet. Everyone's a journalist. No, they're not. So make sure, just like you can look up Lindsay and she has to back up what she's saying, We can't just tell you anything on News 3. We will get sued. Not only the station, but me personally. So we have things in place. So you want to make sure that just some Joe Smo that's like, hey, I used to do such and such, and now I'm a financial guru. No, well, show me your credentials. Why should I believe what you're saying? So watch News 3. Okay. 6 o'clock.
So good afternoon. My name is Dawn Hubbard, and I know it's very important that we diversify when we think about savings and kind of growing for retirement. Can any of you comment on what I'm hearing a lot now about infinite banks?
Yeah, so infinite banking is typically like a permanent life insurance type strategy. So believe it or not, and it's kind of a crazy concept, but it's one of the most important and biggest legal loopholes in the tax code is saving money inside of a life insurance policy. Is anyone familiar with that or has done that? Yeah. Yeah. So, and it's, life insurance is one of the most complicated things out there. If you try to get on Google and type in how much life insurance coverage do I need, what type of policy should it be, what company should I go through, you're going to get 1 million different opinions on it. And if not done properly, life insurance and kind of investing in it can be very risky. Depending on what the market's doing, you can lose a policy and things like that. So you want your life insurance to be a safe place. And the reason I say it's such a loophole in the tax code is saving money in life insurance is almost like a Roth IRA on steroids, if you will. All distributions from life insurance, if done properly, are completely tax-free. So those of you who are over the income limit to have a Roth IRA, that's a really good backup strategy. Or if we're, a Roth, obviously we're capped at $6,500 a year. We can't put any more than that into a Roth. So if we're needing to save additional tax-free money, permanent life insurance is also a good place to do that. So it's called infinite banking. It's kind of, there's like, be your own banker, infinite banking, these kind of like corny things people call it. But really what it is you end up kind of building this cash value inside of a life insurance policy that you can borrow against throughout your life. So you put yourself in a position where if I want to buy a new car or even a house, I'll just borrow against my life insurance. It's like a loan to myself instead of going out to a bank and paying a higher interest rate and borrowing money from a bank. So that's where the kind of infinite banking concept comes from.
Any other questions? Oh, in the back. Okay, I'm going to get all the way. I saw your hand first. I'm going to go all the way to the back. I feel like Oprah. I always wanted to do this.
Thank you. So after you get yourself to the point where you've already set aside a savings reserve, 6 months reserve, you've gotten your credit card debt in a good place, and you're able to make that initial investment, what does that minimum amount look like? And if you say it's under $5,000, what are the smaller vehicles you could start with if you're a new investor just trying to get into the market?
I know some financial advisors do have minimums, like to walk into some of these bigger wirehouse banks, you have to have $250,000, and that's why a lot of people don't do it. I particularly, and my firm as a whole, don't have minimums, so I love to start with people like yourself who are just starting out from literally zero. But if you're doing it on yourself, I mean, some of these lower cost platforms like E-Trade and TD Ameritrade and some of these bigger banks have index funds where you can put $50 a month into them if you want to. So typically, if you're doing it on your own with brokerage accounts or retirement accounts like that, there's not a particular minimum that you'd need to worry about.
Okay.
Hi, thank you. My name is Rondalyn McClintock, Ronnie, and my question is around where you get information. Are there any specific like podcasts or things that you can recommend for folks like me who want to consume this information in bite-sized chunks, but that's accurate?
Podcasts are great, but a lot of times I go to Fidelity or I go to Wells Fargo, not because it's the major banks up front that support our community, just because I have money in there and I can see trends and I can research where
Yeah, so every day I listen to HBR IdeaCast. That's Harvard Business Review IdeaCast. That's a great first option and a great way to start your day as you're getting ready in the morning. I also love Rachel Rogers. I don't know if anyone's familiar with her, but she has a company called Hello 7. Wrote a great book. I highly recommend her book. She is really all about personal investing and building 7-figure plus wealth. And I think she just really speaks from the heart. So I would recommend her as well. My First Million is a great another podcast if you're interested in podcasts. But I think there's a lot of wonderful podcasts that are out there to listen to, whether finance related or not. I mean, you know, I'm always one that loves a great true crime podcast too, so I can recommend those as well. But I know that's a different panel I'll be on later talking about murder mysteries. Okay.
Hi, ladies. And U.S. Bank also has a
Sorry. Go ahead.
U.S. Bank also has a podcast. It's called the Really Good Podcast, and it's on financial topics. Not always is it investing, but it will keep you up to date on different topics. Really Good Podcast. That's the name. That's the name.
Okay, we have a question back here, and then I'll make my way up.
Okay, good afternoon, ladies. I'm a little embarrassed to ask this question and also being a little bit vulnerable with regard to money, because I was not raised with the proper money mindset. And so at this big old age that I am now, I'm just now trying to learn and teach myself and, you know, research and different things like that. And so my goal had been to pay down my credit card debt so that I could use my credit cards as my emergency fund. Is that the wrong mindset? I see Miss Jerry shaking her head already.
I think Anna wants to answer that one.
And the first thing I want to say is thank you very much for stepping up and asking your question. Because I bet there's a lot of other people in the room that have the same question as well. Always focus on trying to pay off your debt first, and then with the extra money, as we've been talking about, set money aside. Some of us were taught that the credit card was for emergencies, right? And then boom, one emergency, boom, another one, and the next thing you know, it's a hole. So there's different ways in which you can separate your money and plan for it, and it's budgeted, and it's already there. And then leave the credit cards as its own separate thing and try and pay those off as soon as possible. It's only going to be better for you. And if you need help, let us know. We can set you up with free coaches that can assist you with that as well. You're welcome.
I love that.
For many of you, you might have taken Dave Ramsey, as you mentioned earlier. And one of the things that he recommends, especially when it comes to credit cards, is a snowball effect, to actually get your credit cards paid off, and always have that emergency fund. And we think of an emergency fund as, oh, I got to have a lot of money just in case I may have an emergency. Not necessarily. You can start an emergency fund with as small as $100. Just keep adding to it so that you will have enough cash actually set aside that if you have an emergency, you can use that cash even though you have a credit card.
Yeah, and the snowball, just for those who may not know, that's when you start with the smallest amount that's owed. You pay that. You throw as much as you can toward it. Then after you pay that off, you add that money plus the minimum to the next biggest number, and you start paying that off. And that's how I paid off my debt, actually. And it really does snowball, and before you know it, you're like, oh my gosh, how did I get here? And you don't miss that money. I mean, a lot of people may think, oh my gosh, you know, I'm used to doing this or doing that. For me, I had a lightweight shopping problem. But I don't know if you can tell I like clothes. But yeah, it really goes that way, but you got to have that emergency fund, because what's the good of paying that off if you just rack up your credit cards again, which I've done twice, right? And so then you're right back where you started. And as they mentioned, that the interest rates are so high, especially on those credit cards, you're just paying too much for it. It's too expensive.
Hi, my name is Crystal. Lindsay, will you educate us a little bit on the different ways financial advisors are paid?
Yeah, absolutely. So
There's a couple different ways, and typically if we keep it kind of simple, there's commission-based advisors and fee-based advisors. I would steer clear a little bit on commission-based advisors because they cost more and they may not have your best interest at heart. And I started my career at a firm that did it like this, and that's why I didn't work for them anymore. So what that is they'll charge a commission to open an account. So you're typically putting money into a new account at a 5% what they call sales load, so it's commissionable share. So the advisor just made 5%, but you've just started your new investment account at a negative 5% rate of return. The other way these commission-based advisors make money is if they rebalance your account. So every time you put money in or rebalance, they're making money. They don't charge a flat fee, so they don't necessarily have any bias to make sure your account goes up, right? So you're having an annual meeting with that person, they say, we should rebalance your account, and you're thinking, do we need to rebalance my account, or are you making a commission from doing that? So I'd be careful, and the reason some advisors are commission-based is they don't have the licenses to be fee-based, so they're kind of playing in the minor leagues when it comes to investment licenses. So I would vouch for a fee-based advisor. A fee-based makes no commissions. There's no commission, no sales load on opening a new account. I don't make any, and I'm a fee-based advisor. I don't make any money if you rebalance your account. I charge a 1% annual flat fee on money that I manage for clients. So that 1% fee comes directly out of the account. It's not an invoice that you pay, and it's not discretionary, so it never changes. So there's no surprises.
That was a good question. All right, we have room and time for just one more, I hate to say, because I see all the hands going up, but you'll be the last question.
Hello, thank you for speaking with us and taking the time to be here. You mentioned that investing can be a source of income. What are some ideas of multiple sources of income?
Yeah, so creating residual income. And I think what we have to keep in mind here is creating residual income, it doesn't happen overnight. It's not like a get-rich-quick type thing. I think probably the quickest way we could do that is purchase real estate and put renters in them and start creating residual income that way, or short-term rentals like Airbnb. There's even Turo, buying cars and putting them on Turo and renting that out and get profitable that way. And then I think even a longer-term gig is the stock market. So if we invest for long periods of time, we can eventually produce residual income. It's just not a short-term outlook when it comes to the stock market. And I think that's why a lot of people kind of struggle with understanding the stock market, is because it's like literally backwards from our rational thinking as human beings, because the way it works is it's really, really difficult to predict on a short-term basis, but it's actually very easy to predict on a long-term basis. As human beings, that's kind of the other way around for us, right? It's easy to predict the short-term, not so much the long-term. So we have to be careful with short-term. And when I say long-term outlook, it's typically 10 years. If you can stay disciplined and stick to an investment philosophy for about 10 years at a time, you're going to be able to create a lot of predictability around the outcome and the rates of return. So things like that, real estate, stocks, bonds, commodities, but keep a long-term outlook.
Anything else anyone wants to add before we go?
I love you all.
Oh, I love that. Let's give them a round of applause. Some great information. I hope you all learned something today, and I hope you'll take it and apply it, because that's the most important, is to apply the knowledge that you've learned and keep it up. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. You too.